So thank you very much for this introduction, and especially for presenting the book not as a book of futurology, because for me something very important to make everybody understand if they're going to go and read this book, that it's definitely not a book of prophecies about the future. It rather tries to map different possibilities that might or might not be realized. We still have some agency regarding that. Writing a book of prophecies, I think, is a sterile exercise. If it becomes true or doesn't matter. I mean, you can't do anything about it. It's much more interesting, it's much more vital to write about different possibilities, and if you don't like some of these possibilities, then do something about it. Try to prevent the worst possibilities from being realized. And what I want to discuss today is one particularly important possibilities that we are now facing, which is the rise of artificial intelligence and the potential that artificial intelligence will become the dominant life form on Earth and even beyond the Earth, and what would that mean for Homo sapiens. And in order to understand this, we need to maybe go a step backward and take the really long view, not just of history, but actually of biology, not just of the history of man, but really of the history of life. Because what's happening now is maybe not just the most important revolution in human history, but the most important revolution in biology since the beginning of life, at least on Earth. For the last 4 billion years of life, nothing much changed about the fundamental laws of life. All life forms for 4 billion years evolved by natural selection, and all life forms were restricted to the organic realm. It doesn't matter if you're an amoeba, or a giraffe, or a tomato, or a Homo sapiens, you are made of organic compounds, and you are subject to organic biochemistry. This is now changing. We are on the verge not only of replacing natural selection with intelligent design, not the intelligent design of some god, our intelligent design, as the principal motor of the evolution of life. We are also on the verge of allowing life to break out for the first time from the organic realm into the inorganic, and creating the first inorganic life forms after 4 billion years of evolution, which also implies that life will for the first time have a serious chance of breaking out of planet Earth and beginning to spread in the rest of the galaxy, in the rest of the universe. Organic life have been adapted to the very unique conditions of this planet for 4 billion years. So despite what you see on Star Trek, which is just now celebrating 50 years, it's extremely difficult to sustain organic life in outer space or on other planets, which is why it's very unlikely that organic life will be able to spread and to flourish outside Earth. But once you switch from organic to inorganic, it becomes much easier. So we are really on the verge of these two intertwined revolutions, moving from the organic to the inorganic and moving from planet Earth actually to the rest of the universe, to the rest of the galaxy. But coming back from the level of the galaxy to the level of day-to-day politics, what will this mean for ordinary human beings, for society, for the job market, for the political system? I don't have time to cover all the different scenarios and possibilities. I want to focus on one very important issue, which is what it will do to the job market and what it will do to the economic importance and power of ordinary humans in the next few decades, because this is a very practical question. Kids in the UK have just started the school year this week. And the question is, what do they need to learn so that they will still be relevant? They will still have a job when they are 30 or 40. It's this kind of question which I think brings down the idea of artificial intelligence from the cloud and the galaxy to the level of society and economics and politics. And one of the big dangers, which more and more experts are talking about, is that in the next few decades, not in thousands of years, but within the lifetime of many of the people here in the room, artificial intelligence will push humans out of the job market. And in the same way that the Industrial Revolution of the 19th century created a new massive class, the urban working class, the proletariat, so in the 21st century, a new industrial revolution will create a new massive class, the useless class. People who have no economic usefulness because AI, artificial intelligence, outperforms them in almost all tasks and all jobs. People who are not just unemployed, they are unemployable. There is no jobs. There are no jobs to give these people. So to start with a simple example, 10 years ago, it was relatively accepted wisdom that computers and artificial intelligence will never be able to drive cars and vehicles better than humans. Maybe in a laboratory, under sterile conditions, a computer could drive a car, but not in real-life situations in a real city like London. Today, more and more experts are coming to the opposite conclusion, to the opposite view, that it's only a question of time, and not a very long time. Maybe in 10, 20, 30 years, humans will not drive vehicles at all, because AI will be so much better at driving taxis and buses and trucks and so forth than human beings. They will not only drive it more efficiently and more cheaply with less pollution, but most importantly, AI will drive far more safely than Homo sapiens, than human drivers. More and more experts believe that not all doctors, but many doctors, maybe 50, 60, 80% of doctors will be replaced by AI within 10, 20, 30 years. And the same thing may happen to many other professions. Lawyers, teachers, insurance agents, and so forth. When people hear about this possibility, again, one of the most common objections is to say, we've heard it before. We've heard it before, this fear of machines replacing humans. It's not new. A lot of people in the 19th and 20th century were afraid that as machines replace humans in agriculture and then in industry, you'll have this massive unemployment and massive crisis with all the useless people. And it didn't happen because as new jobs disappeared, as old jobs disappeared, new jobs appeared to replace them. So we don't have a crisis today of mass unemployment. What happened is that most people in advanced societies stopped working in agriculture and industry. Today, in a country like the UK or the USA, about 2% of the workforce are employed in agriculture, compared to more than 90% before the Industrial Revolution. Maybe 15%, 20% still work in industry, in physical jobs. The vast majority are working in services. But the problem is, we cannot be sure that the same thing will happen again with this new revolution, because humans have basically two kinds of abilities. They have physical abilities and they have mental and cognitive abilities. What happened in the 19th and 20th century is that machines competed and outperformed humans in physical abilities, so humans mostly moved to working in jobs that require mental and cognitive abilities, like the services sector. Now, machines are starting to compete with us and outperform us also in mental and cognitive abilities. And we just don't know about any third kind of ability that humans may have and that everybody could move to work in that field. We just don't know about it. Another problem is that even if new jobs appear, the pace of change is so quick that humans will have to reinvent themselves again and again during their lifetime, which is something that is very, very difficult beyond a certain age. When you're 15 or you're 20, the main thing you do in life is basically to invent yourself or to reinvent yourself. And even then, it's not very easy. But when you're 40 or 50, it's much, much more difficult. And let's say that in 20 years, there are no jobs for taxi drivers and doctors and insurance agents, and they have to reinvent themselves as, let's say, designers of virtual worlds. Now, this is something very difficult for a 50-year-old taxi driver or a 50-year-old insurance agent to invent himself or herself again as a completely new kind of person. Now I am the creator of virtual worlds. How does a virtual world created by a 50-year-old insurance agent look like? It's a very difficult question. And it goes back to what I started with, which is what to teach children today at school. And the answer is that nobody has a clue. I mean, children who today start the first week of school, first grade, nobody knows what the job market would be like when these kids are 30 or 40. It's very likely that almost everything they learn at school will be completely irrelevant. But what to teach them instead, nobody knows, because we just don't know what kind of job market we'll have in 2050 and what kind of skills people will need in these kinds of so far unknown jobs. So, as I said, just as the 19th century created this new massive class, the urban working class, and much of the political and social history of the 19th and 20th century revolved around this new class, the working class. Similarly, in the 21st century, we may see the creation, the rise of a new massive class, the useless class. And much of the social and political and economic history of the 21st century will revolve around that class and around the question what to do with billions and billions of economically useless people. And because they are economically useless, the danger is also that they will be politically powerless. Because usually economic usefulness goes hand in hand with political power. And as humans lose their economic usefulness, they may also lose their political power. Again, to give just one simple example, when you have all these millions of taxi drivers and truck drivers and bus drivers, each of them commands a small share of the transportation market. And this gives them not only a certain amount of economic wealth, it also gives them a certain amount of political power. They can unionize, and if the government pursues a policy which all these taxi drivers or truck drivers don't like, they can go on strike. So they have also some political power. Now, if you replace all these drivers with driverless cars, which are basically managed by a single algorithm, which is owned by a single corporation, which is owned by a handful of billionaires, so all the economic and political power that was previously shared between millions of drivers is now being monopolized by maybe 5 or 10 individuals. As I said in the beginning, this is not a prophecy. Nobody really knows how the job market, how the economy, how the political system would look like in 2050. If you don't like this particular possibility, you can still do something about it. Thank you.